What's up? What's happening? Good day, good afternoon to everyone, and this is Xtreme Sports, and we are coming to you live on WSSU 104.1 FM, your number one source for Tiger Pride. I am the X Factor, Xavier McKnight.
And I'm Randolph, Barratt.
It's great to be back here this week. Randolph and the crew did a great job of holding things down last week in my absence.
Appreciate that.
Just great to be back. SSU Sports is officially back in full effect. Basketball season is getting ready to tip off the regular season after the conclusion of last night's scrimmages. The SSU football team continuing their winning ways. Volleyball season about to come to a close as well. But before we touch on all of that, we have to start off this show on a very somber and sentimental note. The breaking news that came out yesterday in the MLB about Roy Halladay, formerly known as Doc in the MLB, tragically passing away in a plane crash at the age of 40. Doc Halladay was an 8-time All-Star and 2-time Cy Young Award winner, once in the National League with the Philadelphia Phillies and earlier in his career in the American League with the Toronto Blue Jays. Just a terrible loss all the way around, and the MLB was definitely in mourning yesterday.
Most definitely condolences out, to his family. He was big time in his day in the MLB. A phenomenal pitcher, I'm pretty sure. Just a great person, and a pretty big loss for the MLB family.
Big loss for the MLB family indeed. The Doc Halladay moment I'll remember the most is, of course, the no-hitter perfect game he threw in the playoffs in 2010 when he was with the Philadelphia Phillies against the Cincinnati Reds. That was a great night for baseball all the way around. But our prayers and sincerest condolences out to the family of Roy Halladay as they go through this very difficult time, and anybody else who is suffering with this loss. So let's segue into our first segment. The SSU basketball recap from last night. And I take away some good and I take away some bad from both teams. Let me just start off by saying that last week, going into what I said last week, how change and adjustment can be hard, but eventually you do adjust. In particular, we're seeing that the most right now with the SSU women's basketball team, because that is a fresh starting lineup out there. I didn't recognize any of those faces or those names whatsoever.
Yeah, I believe it's 9 new freshmen on this team.
It is. But these girls can play. I'm not going to say that they're going to be at the high class of the MEAC just yet. I can't judge that based on an exhibition against Payne and Wesleyan College, those exhibition games that they had. I can't judge that on that. But what I can say is I'm encouraged to see that what I saw last night, the in the paint area, the rebounding, it's there. And it's going to be there, and they're just going to get better as the season develops. One player in particular who I was looking at was Kayla Vance, who only scored 8 points, but she looked so graceful in doing so. She scored 8 points, grabbed 6 rebounds, and had 3 blocks. And she just looked so graceful down low doing so. There were times Tyona Davis didn't even look that graceful doing things like that for the Savannah State Lady Tigers. But that guard combination of Lataria Mathis and Denasia Scott, I want to make sure that I'm getting these names correctly. So I'm not stifling on them or any way whatsoever. I just want to make sure that I am pronouncing things correctly. Kaylee Allen is going to be a huge addition to this team. She scored 18 points last night. Had 2 assists.
Yeah, I think Scott and Allen were over 20 plus in the first exhibition, and a good showing from them again last night. Those are 2 names. I'm going to be interested to see how they develop as the season goes on.
Now, what I will say right now is they have a turnover issue. They have a turnover issue. They have to get back in the flow of just keeping the ball in their possession and not playing wild basketball.
Well, with being so many new additions, you should expect that in exhibition. Not much court time on together so far. So as the season goes along, it should get better. But if later in the season comes and it's still happening.
We expect to see these things right now, but later in the season when you're playing up against your MEAC competition and it's coming down to competing for a spot in the MEAC tournament and you want to have the highest seed you possibly can to possibly clinch a first round bye, we're going to have to see improvements on that side. Now, let's segue into the second game of the evening where the Savannah State Tigers men's basketball team hosted Fort Valley State University. And I honestly thought I was going to be coming in here congratulating the guys on a comeback victory, but unfortunately that will not be the case. They were defeated 103-89 last night. And Randolph, the biggest takeaway I take out of that game is there were so many opportunities they could have won that game. There was, in particular, a point where it was 75-78. And if you just play a little more poised and composed and don't try to live and die by the 3-point shot, you have a shot to win that game, in my opinion.
I didn't get a chance to catch the game last night. But from what I seen from the box score here, it was a terrible night at the free throw line. Yeah, they missed 20 free throws.
They did.
21 for 41.
They did. That's something that Coach Barratt and his coaching staff will definitely be addressing today and going forward. But listen.
And then you shoot 8 from 53 from the 3-point line. I mean, you just can't depend that much on the 3-pointer.
I understand that it's scrimmage, and maybe that's why we didn't see Dexter McClanahan go into takeover mode the way he should have. So I expect to see that later on in the season. But here's what I will say. Kudos to Fort Valley for a great game that they did play last night. Jalen McMillan, 35 points.
8 threes.
He was lights out in the second half. Every time this guy shot the ball, I mean, everybody was just looking for it to go in the net. He was lights out. They played really good defense. They didn't let him get anything down in the paint. So kudos to Fort Valley and congratulations to them on the victory that they were able to get. And the Savannah State Tigers basketball season will begin this Monday. The men's Tigers season will begin this Monday at Tiger Arena when they take on East Tennessee State University in the first home game of the season. And this is going to be the regular season opener.
They actually play Cincinnati first. November 10th.
Yes, that is correct. That is correct. My mistake. They play at Cincinnati this Friday, and they're coming back home this Monday to play against East Tennessee State University. The women's, however, will have a home game on Friday against LaGrange College in their opening game of the regular season, Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Of course, you can get in free with your student ID if you are a student. Ticket information can be found on SSUathletics.com. So good luck to the Tigers and Lady Tigers going forward. We know that we are expecting to see some good basketball being played by both programs this season. Even though the men lost last night, I'm encouraged by what I saw because there are going to be times where you're just going to have to take that mid-range shot as opposed to that three-point shot, and I believe that they will get into the discipline of doing so. They have to get into a chemistry of playing with each other as well. You know, Kaylin Pinkett coming back to the team. Alante Finner is back on the team. Javaris Jenkins didn't play last season. He's back on the team in the starting lineup. A lot of new faces. Tyleek Evans, Jalen Smith, the Grant brothers, John and Juwan. They have to get acclimated to the system.
Yeah, both teams with a lot of pieces, new pieces. So it's going to take some time, of course, for the chemistry to gel. And it was just pretty much a bad shooting night last night.
It was.
Looking at the numbers, yeah, it's a bad shooting night.
It was. And listen, once that chemistry develops,
they
will be a force to be reckoned with in the MEAC. They did show flashes of that at times last night. Because here's one thing I will say. They have size. They have some size on this team now, and they have some guys who can stretch the floor with that size, meaning that they don't have to stay down in the paint. They can stretch the floor with the three-point in the mid-range game, and that's a very important necessity for the offense that Coach Broadnax would like to run. Now going into our next segment, the SSU football team continued their winning ways this past weekend against Delaware State, winning 35-21. And it's like I said last week, folks, you have to be patient with young people. You have to be very patient with them. 3 weeks ago, I was all but done with Devon Gibbons as the starting quarterback of this team. I even said on live radio while we were sitting at the game at Morgan State, the SSU radio crew and myself, get David Handler in there. He knows the playbook. He's been in the system for 3 years. He's not going to play too wild, and he's a one-dimensional quarterback, but he can fling that football down the field, and the receivers were going to get the ball for him. And in the past 3 games, Devon Gibbons has shown up, he's shown out, and he's grown up.
Oh, yeah, that just comes with him being more comfortable in the system. I mean, with him being thrown into that role early in the season with Bell going down, You had to expect some struggles, but as the weeks have gone on, he's just gotten better and better.
Yes, he has indeed. Just listen at these numbers for Devon Gibbons last week against Delaware State. 13 of 22, 162 yards. These are his passing numbers. A touchdown, 1 interception, 27 carries, 126 yards rushing, 2 rushing touchdowns. This is some of the stuff we saw from T.J. Bell last year when he was getting acclimated to becoming the quarterback of this team. So my question to you is, when T.J. comes back, are they going to have a quarterback controversy on their hands going forward?
I mean, yeah, with 2 quarterbacks being able to run the system, I mean, it's just going to depend on what condition Bell is when he comes back.
I definitely agree with you on that there. Jalen McLeod kept things going this weekend as well on the ground game. 19 carries for 92 yards. Very positive to see that coming out of him as well. Remember, that was a young man who I raved about last week too, coming off of the performance that he had at Norfolk State. Getting Cameron White the ball, DeAndre Sneak. You know, they're finally getting into that flow of that MEAC team that in particular I thought I was going to see this year. That team I said would finish 5th or 6th in the conference.
I mean, they had a kick return or a punt return, if I'm not mistaken. But it was somewhat of a sloppy game. 5 turnovers each way. But State really dominated the time of possession, I think 37-22. Yeah, they just did a good job of capitalizing on mistakes and seizing opportunity, which is the reason they got that win. Yeah, just a great win for the Savannah State Tigers overall. Now, they do have a tough task coming up this weekend, going in and taking on the undefeated North Carolina A&T Aggies. But I'm very encouraged by what I'm seeing when I walk around in Tiger Arena and I see the players and I see their faces. They want this matchup, and they are expecting to go in and play well. And hopefully we can come out with another W to make it 3 in a row. It's been a long time since the school won 3 games in a row. Nobody expects it, but, I mean, that's the best when you're playing with house money. You can go in there, just do your job, and you can come out on top. When you have nothing to lose, you have everything to win. Exactly.